What time is it? I can't even tell what time it is right now amongst the incredible guests that we have today. I think that, wait, Joe, it is almost midnight for you. I think I usually see you around about midnight, which is interesting. I think of you as this incredibly energetic person, full of intellectual curiosity and ideas. But maybe during the day, you're just kind of this dull, flat affect of a human being, and we're just getting night, Wei-Jou. I don't know. You tell me.
Actually, I think I have like two modes. In the very beginning of the day, I'll be kind of peak of my energy, and it would slow it down, like it's slowly getting down. And towards the maybe having dinner, it will be a lower point. But when I think of I have something exciting to do at night, and I would return back to the peak, energetic peak. So now I'm in the peak right now.
Now, is that night excitement mode, like if you were some kind of a device where you had sort of low and high, right, and a switch, is the night mode you just turned high back on, or is it like ultra mode? Do you have like old air conditioners, like an economy mode?
I think I would try my best to be the ultra mode every time, but someday I just couldn't because I'm like too tired and I lost all the energy at night. But like fortunately this time I really energetic and really excited to be here. Although it's 10 p.m. but
So I only know you in ultra mode. This is wait, Joe Ultra. Very exciting to realize that we've been in ultra mode in our conversations. Tomas, are you a three mode human being? How does your switch work?
Actually, I just have on and off, I think. Every time I'm on all the way in. If I'm off, I'm off. So just simpler version.
Tomas, we're learning that you have no setting between off and on.
No, I mean I just have those two settings on and off.
All right, there's not even a high. It's just on. There's no speed. There's no speed
Anytime
dial.
it's on, anytime it's on is high.
Ma'am, how many settings do you have?
I mean, probably three. I mean, there's off, right? There's just off. But then there's the regular on, and then there's the extra on, the ultra mode in front of my students. When I'm in the classroom, I like crank it to that. I'm like, let's do this, and like try to get them all excited and break through the mode of like everybody's on their phones and doing their thing. But it comes at a cost, right? After I walk out of the classroom, I drive home in my car, and I come home and I'm like, nobody talked to me for about an hour. Just, I need to recharge my whole social battery because it's not my normal state to be sort of high activation like that. So everything's a trade-off, right? My students get in some ways the best of me, or the ultra version, and then everybody else has to wait for my battery to turn back, to come back.
I relate very strongly to that when in front of a room of students. For me, it's that you want to interact fully with every single individual.
Right.
So I I try to be aware of, how you have eye contact with one person, and when it works, you often know something about them before they say it, or even if they don't say it, by their eyes, right? Most obvious thing in the world. I try in a group to be having that interaction with a lot of people. And I find that it takes a lot out of me. It's very exciting. It's what I imagine an orchestral conductor must experience as they're, pulling out a little more volume from the timpani or whatever, the big drums. But like you, Mim, afterwards, like I can barely, articulate a thought. And there's a need to reach out.
It's true. I come home and I'm like, don't give me a math problem. It's not a good idea. I don't think it will go well until after I take a walk, clear my head. Yeah.
So if we give you a math problem now, that's fine, right?
It depends on the math problem.
This is a special episode of
Yes,
What If Instead, where
to
we
our
do
one
math
listener
live
who
together.
stayed with us for the math problem. No,
I
sorry.
mean, you fluid dynamic. I mean, an expert in fluid dynamics. So
No. This is not what our guests thought they were signing on for, is to listen to Alejandro give me math problems. No. But seriously, I wanted to introduce our guests, and then we could get into the real exciting conversation, which is why they're here and joining us across countries and time zones. Okay, so I'm going to start with Tomás. He is an advocate for experiential hands-on learning. He's an advocate for youth empowerment. He's had about 20 years of experience in designing really innovative and exciting educational programs. And he specializes in what we would consider sort of non-formal education methods, beyond just sort of the person lecturing at the front of the classroom to something way more hands-on. And he really wants to work on these learning experiences that encourage people to be creative, to work together, and then to do something to improve society. And as part of this, in addition to all the educational piece of what he does, he's founded social ventures, including one where he is now in Barcelona, Spain, called Youth BCN. And it's basically trying to help young people, working with innovative programs. What they do around the youth is workshops, is training, is all this emphasis on ways to learn that are beyond what we have traditionally thought of as ways to learn, with the goal of helping people give back to their communities, train people to think about how to solve problems in their communities. And then it's this last piece of it, which is my segue to our second guest, is he's the current head of experiential learning at Rebel Base, which is this online innovation platform that spans time zones, that spans countries, that encourages entrepreneurial thinking and problem solving in these really interesting collaborative environments. And so Wei-Jou Huang is a student at the Institute of Oceanography, National Taiwan University, and she specializes in ocean and environmental studies. She's very passionate about nature and about how we preserve and protect and enhance nature. But she's also a former student of Tomás. She's also been a TA. She's a former and current participant in some of the global entrepreneurship programs that Tomás has been involved in delivering and helping formulate. And she's also become a global mentor to groups in this entrepreneurship program. So they really span a whole variety of learning and teaching styles in a very hands-on and interesting way. So we're very grateful to have them both here with us today.
Maybe we could open with how your collaboration has evolved, the two of you, over time, both intentionally and naturally. So let me ask first, if you don't mind, Wei-Jou, what was your first impression of Tomás Mora, and what has changed? How has he surprised you? What didn't you expect?
It might sound a little bit offensive with like first, no, I mean like first impression is because I'm not the native speaker of English, so it's very difficult for me to understand the accents of Thomas. But from now, for me, it's supernatural to kind of like a chat with Thomas, and I can understand everything what he's saying. But in the beginning, it took me a while to actually understand the thing like Thomas expressing. And I think in the beginning, I soon realized it's not a normal courses I can take in my university just from the first single local class. And I soon realized, well, it would be different because of Thomas. I think, yeah, because the way he's acting is not as any professor in my school is like entirely different, and he's really, really believe in our potential and really try to kind of unleash it. And I really feel this kind of
So this is
power.
very interesting, this idea
Yeah,
of unleashing. Yeah, can you give us an example what Tomás did to believe in your potential and unleash it, as you put
I think Toman is he's the kind of person that will make you to believe you can actually do something. Just he's just take it really normal. I think he's not setting any limit for anyone. He just take it very like gently, a very normal way to say, okay, you can go first step, second step, and third step, and just go on, go on, go on, go on, and in the end, you can build it. It's just far beyond the courses, so it's just like he just make everything as it's just like a thing is possible to be built and to be solved, to be developed, and he's in this kind of way to support everything.
this is an incredible idea that is bigger, much bigger than a course that you're describing. If I'm hearing right, you said that Tomás is about possibility and taking steps, and the idea that you are being met by him in terms of what's possible, what you could do on your own terms, and then walking together in the steps toward trying that. Am I hearing you right? I felt as if my attempt to reflect it back actually um, emphasized your point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you can see that kind of possibility, and you can kind of see the future you can actually build. And but at the same time, Thomas is really, really like realistic. I mean, he will plan every small steps in a very comprehensive way. So you think, okay, if I really follow this kind of path, I can find out about it, and it's possible. So I think it's a great learning experience from my own perspective because I always skip a lot of things and just jumping around. And I think stick with Thomas is really helped me to actually mapping out and just follow those steps and just try to go to the free trial we want to pursue.
It's unusual what you're saying, because so often we have dreamers who stay in the land of what they'd like and what might be possible. And then we have practical people who take steps toward it. And it sounds as if you're saying that this is a combination of both. Tomas, if Wei-Jou hasn't completely embarrassed you into signing off this interview, um, is this something that you do intentionally, this combination that she's describing?
Well, thank you, Alejandro. First of all, thank you, Mim and Alejandro, for having me in this episode, and also Wei-Jou for joining us. I think everyone can understand now why Wei-Jou got the best grade last year, right? Not an accident. It was all prepared. It was all prepared leading to this moment. Everything last year I was thinking of this. So, and I was insisting, oh, please invite her to this podcast. Now, I would say, I mean, all what the way Joe was sharing is very kind from her side. However, I would say that what I try to do is to help them do what they want to do, try to help them reach to those places where they want to reach out to, or help them to become who they want to become. I try to do that, and in the end, designing this learning path that it's structured but flexible at the same time, which they can take in different directions, the same steps or similar steps, and whatever they find at the end, it's on their own, is their journey, and hopefully, you and I, Alejandro, and others like us can just help them uh, realize this, that in the end, it's all up to them. We are just here to help on the way, nothing else. I hope it answered your question. Maybe not, or
There's
is
at
that
least three amazing themes that you've raised there that we can pick up on later, from it being on their terms, what they want to solve, all the way through to that combination of that you described. And then finally, the sense that that your role as a teacher isn't to teach, if I'm hearing right. It's to create a space, to enable, and almost to get out of the way but provide structure. So those are all themes we can pick up on. But first, Mim, I can feel you burning to ask a question.
So, well, my question was actually about this tension between structure and exploration. And so, is it something where, to go back to this idea of helping the people become who they're trying to be, does that mixture change for the groups that you work with depending on the skills the groups come with? Or, like, I guess, let me ask it this way: is there a recipe, or is it always, there's kind of a recipe, but the ingredients and the proportions change depending on who's in the group and what they need from you as an instructor?
I can tell you how I cook at home.
Okay.
Maybe that would help.
That probably will help
So
explain a lot. Yes.
My wife, for instance, she cooks with the recipe that she needs to follow, and she usually buys the ingredients and likes to follow those steps according to someone else's recipe. What I do is I open the fridge, and then whatever I got, I make what I want to believe an awesome dish out of it. So there's no real structure. I mean, it shouldn't not appear or is not visible for everyone. Or I remember at the beginning of being with her, she thought it was total improvisation and out of luck every time. But there are some things that are down there that you kind of know how it needs to look and taste, whatever you are throwing into the pan or the pot or combination of both, and also the oven.
Tomas,
So
before you go on, can I just say this is amazing
yeah,
because in a recent episode with two people we've worked with in the Philippines, Ari Luis Helos and Charnil Antiporda, literally the conversation went to going into that fridge with very few ingredients. And listeners, I didn't tell Tomas about this. That episode had not
Nobody's
yet been
heard it yet. No
no,
released.
I
one's.
mean,
It's
have an
unreleased.
idea.
This is just across time zones and continents. We are having a shared conversation. There's an incredible synchronicity. So please continue.
I think it's always about food, though. So yeah. So answering to your question, Mim, and this is what non-formal education is about, and also what it's similar and different to formal education. In non-formal education, we should have clear and measurable learning goals. Although the path to reach out to them, to reach to those learning goals, it's changing according to the context and the students. So yes, there are some adjustments and changes according to who they are, what do they do, how do they feel. You cannot have the same, you apply the same methods and tools for all kind of contexts, all kind of students, or all kind of participants. But I would say if I had to highlight something, it's despite of showing that there's a lot of flexibility and this looks like it's fun and this is we are playing things and we are just chatting here with each other, there should be a sometimes non-visible structure behind that the facilitator or the teacher in this case, it's uh, it's guiding them a little bit onto that broad, apparently invisible path, but it's actually there. It's set for them. And then sometimes you will be hitting off some of the steps. Sometimes you will be close to the steps, but not exactly stepping on the steps, but nearby, as far as not to way in another direction. And sometimes I have to admit that sometimes things went in a totally opposite or different direction than expected. And what we should do in those cases is take the opportunity to see if it's actually possible to, okay, this was taking us to a totally different direction. Let's explore that direction if it's possible. If it's not possible, aka being inside of a formal institution, because they need the grades and things like this, you in the end need to start to put them a little bit more focusing toward the learning goals of the students, yours and the formal education institution meet.
Right. I want to pick up on two things you've said. One is this idea of an invisible structure. And it makes me think at first of Maria Montessori and how in a Montessori classroom there will be certain building games, like a pink tower, for example, that have mathematical proportions built into them. And the idea is that children just play with these tools and that it brings out the mathematical proportions. This is my very lay version of Montessori's idea. And so I want to ask you, since obviously you're not teaching math, although your first math problem's coming in just a moment, ma'am, since obviously you're not teaching mathematics in these classrooms, you're teaching something else. What is that thing you're teaching and how do you create invisible structure for it? I want to understand if this is you're designing a course or a space where these things can be practiced and mastered,
Uh-huh.
what creates that? And along with that, you mentioned that the context couldn't be generic, right? It can't be one size fits all. So I'm so curious whether you've been able, whether this is personal and Tomas has to be there, or whether you've been able to inculcate this in a growing group of people in different industries and regions, as I think you have? And
Mhm.
if so, how you bring that structure while keeping it responsive?
Well, I would start from the last part you mentioned. Okay, I will not deny it. There is a big, or not big, but there is an important component of based on experience. So in the end, to be able to teach in general, you need to have. I mean, the more experienced you are, the better teacher you become. At least this is how it should be, or how I've seen in the past. When it comes about handling these innovative learning paths and processes, it's also relevant because you need to be aware of that invisible path and do some little tweaks and changes along the way. So there are not so clear indicators like if I do an exam and test in the middle of the course and then I know where my students are like too far from what I expected at the end or too close. So there are not those hardcore proofs where can show you how far or how close you are, of course.
So there aren't any exams, you're saying,
No, there are
because
not any
listeners don't
exams.
know. So help us understand. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, but there are other tools that you can use, like reflection sessions, feedback sessions with the students, and reply to your question, which is this is depends only on me or this can be replicated. There are many other facilitators and trainers, experts in non-formal education that I know, that I work with. I had the pleasure to work with a lot of them in Europe. I don't know so many around the world, but I'm sure there are as well. And it's possible to replicate this and to do it in other parts. And I think the easiest it becomes is when you understand that the main star in this process are the students or the participants, not yourself. When you are there to help them shine, then it's get also a bit, oh, okay, responsibility is not that much on me. It's not like I need to lecture everyone with my revealed knowledge or with my experience as a talk, but more of, okay, this is the knowledge. I'm throwing things here. I'm preparing activities for you to think, to reflect about this knowledge. And then I want you to speak with each other about this knowledge. And then I want you to create on top of this knowledge. And then I want you to cross-examine those things you created, speaking with others, and to me, getting feedback, being able to receive feedback, giving feedback, meaningful feedback to others, and then doing changes on the things that you were crafting with that initial knowledge.
Wei-Jou, can we hear your perspective on this topic, especially as someone who participated first as a student and then subsequently enabling other folks from, I understand, a whole range of countries and working with facilitators from multiple continents? How is that structure articulated from your point of view?
So based on what Thomas say, I think what this entire course or what he's doing is basically create a system for every student can learn and grow by doing, by creating, by actually launching something in the world. So I'm not sure. I mean, like every student develop the driven project, that's for sure. But I'm very sure everyone have really learned a lot and growth after this entire process. So it's just like leaving the stage for those like student with a really high potential and just let them shine on the stage. It's from my own perspective from a teaching assistant.
Would
Yeah.
you break down for listeners what kinds of projects we're talking about? What kinds of potential and learning that you mean? Give us a little bit of context or a story for this for folks who may not even know what these real world projects would be.
So this course is so first of all you would team up with a bunch of people and those people is multicultural and also from the different country in the world. So that's the first learning because you need to learn actually how to work with those people and it also the really really benefit thing until now because I learn so much and I grow so much by just work with them and just communicate with them and try to learn how to cooperate with the different cultural differences and the time differences. So
Can
that's the
you give us
first
an
one.
anecdote about one of those differences and what you learned from it, if one comes to mind? A story?
I think first of all, last year I have a team member from Afghanistan, and I think it's really, really hard to actually then her to fit with our workflow because maybe it's because the culture. I'm from Asia. I'm not in Europe, but like some of the team members in Europe, so we very used to work in the environment that totally online or have a lots of technical tool, or we just really um, used to share our thoughts and experience and be really honest to each other. But I think that particular member, she in the beginning, she's very very unconfident and also have some problem about how to actually collaborate with us. And
Very
I think it's because
unconfident, you said, right? That was the word you
yeah,
said.
yeah,
She
yeah,
doesn't have
yeah.
confidence. Confidence? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's because her experience is that the first years of college, she experienced the lockdown of her country because Afghanistan is taken by the Taiwan, and it's very traumatic and it's very terrible situation right now. So at that moment she's become very very hopeless, but at the same time she's also trying to find some other way to learn and growth, and we all feel very very like excited and grateful that she willing to try to work with us. And I can saw her growth after this entire project, and it's really moved me. So that's why I'm thinking this kind of education is really different from a lot of education we have in our school, because we can really grow and we can really take something with us, and it will last for our entire life. So we will become a different person, I mean, after this course. So that's a different learning because through this collaboration, through this kind of project-based developing, and we can learn some skill and we can have some emotion like that will make us remember, and also it'll have a very lasting effect throughout our life. So yeah, I think that's my conclusion. I think I a little bit talked too much, but
No, it's great. So,
thank you.
one thing I wanted to pick up on something you said and something Tomas said earlier is this. So bear with me while I situate it in an educational setting as someone who teaches in a business program. In many ways, this is a business class, it's a business curriculum, but it's being treated, and I mean this in the best way, as as much of an art as a science, in the idea that you're creating this personal portfolio of work, that it's about the growth of the person through the process, that we don't all end up in the same place, that there are many right answers. There's a sort of portfolio artistic quality to it that encourages like this unique development versus a very regimented, okay, we all take the test, you score this, you get this right, you get this wrong, we move on. So it's very, I've never really thought of it in this way until I heard you guys talking about it.
Hmm.
But there's something very like this idea that you take it with you, this portfolio, like you could put it in a binder or on a flash drive and it's yours forever. And so there's this really interesting thing that you're both talking about, that this very sort of artistic way of developing a very skill based competency.
Yes, although I want to emphasize that it's not about like here in this course, because I don't want, I mean, for sure you didn't say it this way, but I just want to emphasize that it's not about oh, everyone has different capabilities, that we all fit here, all the replies, all the answers to the professor's questions are okay.
Yeah,
So
no,
we don't,
right.
we are not so, I mean, we are not so much paying attention in what do the students do or say. In the end, everyone gets a pass. I just want to emphasize that it's not so much that way, but there is a part that yes, it is, because what we try to prioritize is that at the end of the course, students are able to say, look, I discovered that I have an entrepreneur inside of me and I didn't know it, and or I want to pursue this path, or the project I developed during this course, it really kept me up at nights. So when did the subject in the university before did that to you? Probably almost never. When was exciting for you to join the university class? Like, this is the kind of things we want to achieve, because hopefully it's meaningful, it's a relatable, meaningful experience for the students where they can develop these skills and these competencies, rather than just acquiring terms that I don't, please don't judge me for this, but I don't care so much if they know what net income is at the end of the course, or what is break even point, which those things can be Googled in a second, and then Google tells you what are those, or you chat GPT them. Oh, what is net income? What is a break even point? We try to say do this to the students, that we don't have the answers for everything, and we try to help them set them in that path of self-discovery and search of what they're looking for. And then in the end, although it's true that our experience and our advice when they develop their projects, it can be valuable and it's important, does not mean that it's the revealed truth. Because in the entrepreneurship field, someone can tell you, no, 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 business is A, B, C, and then 2 plus 2 equals 4, but that's not true. So sometimes yes, sometimes not. And it's important to have knowledge and experiences and a lot of advice. But the most important thing of all of it is that you believe in what you want to do and you pursue the dream. And then on the way, you need to learn some concepts and work some concepts that we work during the course as well. But I'm not going to value, or I'm not going to aim to just that you know all the pieces well one by one. I want you to see, I want you to understand how the whole machine works. And then you focus on the pieces, you hone the knowledge of each piece along your journey, life journey of being an entrepreneur, not in a 3 months course. It's impossible.
So I'm hearing that this is quite rigorous, but also about dreams and exploration of the kind that led you, Wei-Jou, to say that you were a different person at the end and took something lasting with you. So maybe we could turn to you for a moment, Wei-Jou, and tell us what was rigorous. Was it hard compared to one of your courses where you're focused on oceanographic science or what have you? What was hard about it versus where was this freedom and this exploration and this chance to become a different person? Can you really make that vivid? If I hadn't been there and didn't know anything about it, for you, both as a participant and then later making this possible for others?
I would like categorize this kind of learning into two different way, because first of all, for the oceanography learning, it's just for my curiosity, because I think I'm really curious and I really want to know more about the earth and more about the environment. So why I'm doing this, because I really curious and I feel happy and excitement about doing this. But the learning is this kind of project based this course. I think it's just like our life. I mean, like it's that continuously, and also you need to think more deeply, and you need to think something like responsible to the world, and also you also need to like this kind of learning will never stop, and it's very dynamic and it's very flexible, and
What's
but
dynamic and flexible? Paint a picture for folks. What is this flexible, dynamic, never stop learning? Give us maybe something like that happened while you were going through this experience that would illustrate that for folks hearing it.
so when I try to develop some project, this kind of project in this kind of course, it really made me think of a lots of my life experience, because I think my entire like growing experience really like developing this kind of project in this learning process, because it's always changing, it's always shifting, but it have a very clear core value here. But in order to get to that core value, you need to be really flexible and dynamic in a lots of things.
Can I just add one thing and say this on behalf of Wei-Jou that she doesn't dare to say, and all the students that we had before, Alejandro, to make it a comparison of how it is, this question about how rigorous it is and how flexible it is. And Wei-Jou, if you agree, just laugh, okay? If not, correct me, please. So almost 99.9% of the students, when they start this course with us, they do feel that it's a pain in the ass. That's a lot of work, a lot of
Wait,
job
that
to
you're a
do.
pain in the ass,
Like,
or it's
like
no? Go
no,
on.
no, no, no. The course it is like, well, why so much assignments every week? They're asking us to be online constantly with the camera on, answering to our questions, engaging in debates. They make us talk. They make us just get out of the podcast mode. And I cannot be doing my chores at home and listening to the class. I have to be participating in the class.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this phase at the beginning of the course where they think that this is too strict program with a weekly assignment where everything is specified until the last think that you have to write 3 comments in 3 different projects every week before class, and then every week you need to be ready to prepare your project 5 minutes presentation and be ready to be picked up, etc. And they're freaking out. They're like, oh my god, like many students actually dropped at the beginning of the class thinking that this is way too much work for them. And then it arrives a phase where they start to fall in love with the project and the solution they are trying to build, and then start to don't care so much about these things and thinking, well, this is what I want to do, so I kind of don't mind what they are throwing at me. And then at the end of the course, they realize of, wow, they were not so hard on us, so I could have slacked a bit more in the beginning, maybe, or or in the end they are like overproducing, like, and then in the end they're like, oh my god, man, I think it's not enough. I want to do more. And I was grading actually earlier before this podcast, and I was seeing like, wow, this student did more than I was asking in the, like, I cannot put more points. Like, I don't have more points to give.
So, folks, going beyond what it's possible to recognize with a grade. Now, that's a rich topic I'd love to get into. Is what enables someone. I mean, Wei-Jou, oceanography, difficult. I've seen you go beyond what anyone was possibly asking or expecting of you, both when you were working on a project as a student and in coaching this. And let's also look, we've been talking about a course, but as you are now thinking about helping to design and enable a course focused on leading change in organizations as opposed to entrepreneurship per se. So that's 3 areas where you are choosing to go way beyond what anyone is asking you for or rewarding you for. Can you speak to why? And I'd love to hear about the kinds of problems you're digging into. If it's true what Tomás says, that you're falling in love with the problem and the attempt to solve it, what are the problems you've worked on, both in on Team Greenies just now, and I'll let you reveal there, and finally looking ahead as you think about this next piece.
Actually, I want to follow up the Thomas point. In the beginning, it's just like a culture shock for me. Because I'm like in Taiwan and our education is all like really, really traditional thing. And this course has actually really shocked me. But I, in the end, I'd be addicted to this kind of
What
experience.
shocked you and what addicted you? Where, Joe?
So first of all, because in our country, a lot of university courses, it would be like the professor just teaching the stage, and all the students just doing the stuff or maybe taking notes, and no one is interacting with professor, and no one's asking question, and the course is in, and all the evaluation is through the exam.
And in that
So
case, what's your job as a student in that kind of traditional course? Your job is, you said, to take notes, and then what? You're evaluated on what? Your capacity to do?
to take exam. I
Capacity to
always say,
memorize and
yeah,
then
exactly. I
regurgitate.
always say you only train you how to take exam. You would know like what kind of questions would be asked by professor, and you know how to answer it to that high score, and it will
Got it.
never help your life. So it's just like help you how to like take an exam.
Got it. So you're learning to memorize what the professor has said and then answer when asked. Okay. So that's baseline. Now tell us what shocked you. And as much as possible, if you can describe it in very sort of situational terms, that would be helpful. So let's move away from it was very dynamic and say, in what way? What was shocking? And then what did you get addicted?
So first of all, I would say maybe the whole course's structure, because you just look at the syllabus and you can tell the difference immediately, because every week have so many different things to do, and also it's a very like project based courses. So you won't have a clear idea what you will learn and what you'll get from this kind of course. But only thing you know is it'll be really fun because it has so many different things you can try, and so
So,
intense, super intense.
what do
And
you have to do, or what do you get to try that is not the same as listening to what Tomas says and then being tested on whether you can say it back? What are you being asked to do or getting to do?
I think it's just perspective. It's a role, the shift of the role of the teacher and professor. Because in a very traditional teaching condition, you as a student, you're just a receiver of what professor just gave you and what professor just said. But in this kind of this kind of condition, you will become the kind of producer because you're creating something. You create your own project and you try to create like through all the process, all the project, and you really try to like bring something up and try to make your idea into real
Mm.
life. And also through this process, I think the entire like role change really helps a lot during this learning. So it's a main difference.
So you're changing roles. Tell us about the project you just worked on. Mim, you were about to head us in a direction.
Well, one was an observation of sort of these two styles of teaching. Alejandro and I have talked about this, the sage on the stage versus the guide on the side. And what I'm hearing from you and Tomas is this is very much the guide on the side, helping you get to the answer versus the sage on the stage, writing on the board, you memorize the answers and spit them back. So it's just a very different way. It's an old, like, I don't know,
Yeah, it's
30,
just
40.
like being told the answer and you
Yeah,
find the answer by the action. It's an entirely different learning process, I think.
right.
Thanks
So
for bringing up.
yeah, so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about this guide on the side process as it helped you in the project Greenies last year and as the project that you helped mentor this year. Sort of in one case, somebody else was the guide on the side, but then the second time you were the guide on the side. So I was hoping you could sort of compare those for us.
I think I kind of want to brought back to Alejandro like previous question about the core value I'm working on. As you know, I'm studying environment, and also like I really care about and love like really deeply about this planet and this environment. So the problem or the project I'm trying to develop will be mostly environmental related or sustainability project. So in the very beginning for the greening is the habit building app to help people to live a sustainable life by like building a sustainable habit. So it's basically try to like let people to know each small step they are taking is actually matter to the entire planet, and they can actually do something to this seems very huge and very unsolved problem. But if they taking like daily action, and they can actually contribute to a large amount of carbon emission. And we actually do the calculation. So
Hmm.
that's this kind of heavy building platform.
Do you mean you developed some sort of a platform for them to do that, and in a moment maybe you can also talk about the work with Team Repurpose, which is
Hmm.
maybe more focused on a very specific application. But I think Tomas, you were about to jump in if my ears were buzzing right.
I was gonna say that it's funny because last year, I was I was actually advising Team Greenies to don't go that way, that path down of creating an app to raise awareness of environment for people, because that's it's funny, no? Because in the end, look at her, she's here, and actually, initially, I did not agree, or I'd say it's not that I don't agree, but again, they create their own things. I cannot tell them do not do that. I just can tell them what dangers does it have,
Mm.
and what's important and what's not, and making the right questions. So as you
Uh-huh.
can see, in the end, they develop this. They still no. We want to work with the team Rinis and we want to do this and that. I think they shifted a little bit thanks to that. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wei-Jou.
So wait, the guide on the side doesn't tell you what to do or what not to do. They just say, if you're Gandalf, there's dangers in the mines of Moria, right?
I didn't get to tell them not to do so, but I kind of told them like people are nowadays have so much access to information. Like why you are relevant to the people? Explain me why. They couldn't though. Still waiting for that answer.
Your exam begins
Um,
now, Wade.
I'm stressed out. I mean, what? Yeah, that's what exactly Thomas saying. And I will say, like, although this project might be not really come to the world, like real launch it, but the whole like entire learning process is still there. And I think it's a very
Yeah.
valuable experience for me and for all of
Mm.
my teammates as well. And I think I want to bring back to the repurpose this project
So
because
just 1 second
yes,
to finish with Greenie's project. That's
okay,
why you got a good grade, not so much because of the solution that Greenie's provided, but the evolution you had as a team. People from Europe, you from Taiwan, Afghanistan, one of Europe going to Mexico. So it was like all the time zones possible in the world, different cultural backgrounds. You work through that, even it was this idea that I was not agreeing with. You managed to work through that to have meetings on the side. You were sending me emails, asking for feedback. You were like really 100% entrepreneurs, even though your very first team idea, I might have my arguments against it, but still, that was not the relevant point of, oh, how good was the solution they were developing, but how good was the process that they were doing. That was for us the important part of that course, and that's how we try to reflect it at the end in your grades, and that also why you're here and why you're working in another team this year, which we're about to say the purpose.
so I think thank you so much for Thomas. And yes, I'm like really learn a lot and grow a lot after the process. And I think for entrepreneurship, it's really normal to get a really shitty idea and fall in the beginning. So I kind of aware of that. So anyway, now I'm growth and I'm here. So the second project is Repurpose, and it's one of the plastic challenge brought by Bragg U. And Bragg, I think, is an NGO and the world's largest NGO. So basically, they try to solve the problem that there's a lot of plastic on Coast Bazar, and which is the longest beach in the world is in Bangladesh, and they try to gather a group of people developing some solution trying to address this kind of plastic problem. And our team as repurposed, we're tackling the main problem of the recycling facility is inefficient and it's outdated And so the story will be they collected a lot of plastic, but they dump back to the environment because there's no facility and there's no capacity for them to process those kind of plastic. So our solution would be we would take those plastic and we try to make it into relatively high value final product, which is the 3D printing filament, and we try to sell it to the market. And through this process, we can kind of tackle those like no one wants those kind of plastic, you can take it and make it into the final product. So that's the entire idea of repurpose. So this year we work with the team from Bangladesh, and also one is from the Europe. It's also the cross cultural, and it's really good for the market examination because we do the examination in a very different cultural scenario and a different market. So it's also a really good learning experience as well.
What was addictive about all this?
Some examples of the pitching. So the pitching is a process, the fishbowl. Um, in these courses, we will have a session. It's called a fishbowl, which means some of the team will need to be presented their idea and the project to the entire the student and the professor to the entire team, and they will gather some feedback through this process. So in the beginning, all of my teammates, greenies, like they are really panicking about this kind of process, fishbowling, because it's stressful and it needs lots of time to prepare to to be perfect. We hope so, but it turned out not that perfect presentation. And but through the multiple times being fishbowl, actually we got addicted to this process. Every time we go to the local session with Thomas, and we're asking if we can fishbowl in the local session because we really really love that process. Like just presenting idea and gather feedback. That fastest and most effective learning ever our team has experienced. So that's we're really addicted to this kind of pitching and fish bowling.
It actually was every week. Okay, who wants to be kicked today? Oh, we, please, pick us. Okay, you. Go to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
spotlight. Go to the spotlight. And then I was like, huh. No,
What's so
but
great about this kicking? Seriously, why did you
well,
want to present? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that this is how, usually, until they get it, this is how they perceive it, because everyone is like very proudly made something out, and then they feel it's their baby, and they're very sensitive about it. So when they expose it in front of other people, they feel like they are being exposing themselves out. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they get any critique or any feedback, many of them get defensive so quickly. And instead of trying to understand what the other person is saying, or actually what we try to do to offer them and to get the chance of measuring themselves against the real world, when they take the defensive position, they feel it like they're being kicked, that they did all this effort, that they've been put in front of the class, which is a large audience or not, and then they present, they do their best in 5 minutes presenting the project, and then how it comes that they get feedback, sometimes negative feedback, or I mean, always
Mm-hmm.
aiming to improve something, but they always wonder, like, oh, why, haha, I don't like this
Mm-hmm.
experience. Until they start to learn and understand that actually this is how the real world works, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit in a way, where you will always have to try to do something and someone else will try to tear it down, even if it's to understand it, because nobody creates perfect things at the first go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why everyone needs a little bit of contrasting their ideas against other people's ideas and realities and experiences. And I think once they get the hang of it, they love it. As what Joe was saying, oh, we won this week also as well, fishbowl. But it's not so common. And usually, in my experience, youngsters or students, they struggle a lot until they can learn to appreciate to be critiqued or to be put in front of a group to expose their ideas or their thoughts, or whatever they came up with.
So to follow up on that, Wei-Jou, when you were mentoring the group this past year, how did you get them, or how did they make that mindset shift that Tomás is talking about, going from, oh my God, don't kick me, to I want to present?
I think the main thing that actually make this kind of shift is from like interior, also like outside, because when you really when you really enjoy what you're doing and really believe in the solution, the project you are developing, it's nothing about the like grading, or it's nothing about the course. It's not just the homework in any other courses. It's the thing. It's what you want to develop, and it's the project, and it's like you really really love this, and you love it so deeply, so you would try to um, make it into a real world as soon as possible. So I mean, like the
Into the
fish,
real world as soon as possible, you
yeah,
said.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like the fish bowling and the pitching, we found is the most effective way to learn and also
Mm.
to growth. And from the outside, I think the mind shift will be so actually all the co-instructor and all the student that try to give you some idea, some feedback, they're helping you. Like although they might be a little bit harsh on you, but like the very original thought is that they're really trying to help you. And when you
So,
realize it,
yeah, yeah, it's a kind of trust that I hear you describing. I think of an analogy to folks going up and improvising, right? Whether they're doing comedy or they're playing jazz or whatever. And when they're workshopping, the idea at first of getting on stage and having to improvise, right? No script is terrifying. But then folks learn, and this is what I hear you saying about sort of trust in this process that's towards the real world. Folks learn that if they want to actually be on stage before an audience doing that, they'd better take advantage of these opportunities to do it in the workshop where they'll respond to various situations, they'll get critiqued in various ways, and start to trust that this isn't a one-time process where if they bomb, right, in the sense of having a bad reception from the audience, it doesn't feel right, it's over. But instead, if they bomb, it's toward being able to do it on for that audience, or in your sense for the real world. So what I'm hearing you saying that intrigues me though is that it's not only trust in the space, right? Trust in the way Tomas or the peers or these co-instructors you talk about from around the world will respond, but it's also trust in the process of going out there and doing it, because really doing it, right? Really cleaning up this beach, it's going to be very hard, right? Really cleaning our coastlines, something covered in plastic as they are, is something we haven't figured out. So it sounds to me as if trust in that process actually is the only thing that could give you enough of that feedback loop to have a prayer of doing it.
Trust in the process is one of the principles of non-formal education. Just adding.
Mm,
Please, Wei-Jou.
mm, mm. You're making me think. I'd love to ask about. So you all have focused on one course, you're calling it, and I understand that although it's a course, it's not only students in universities that take part, right? That this team repurpose that actually was the top team this year that you coached involved people from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh and a project working with this NGO, this non-governmental organization, BRAC, that you mentioned, to actually um, clean those beaches, to work with women who are entrepreneurs who can create real projects to clean those beaches. So if I'm understanding, this isn't just in the classroom, and this real world part is not just a term of art you're using. We actually want to clean the beaches. And then if I also understand that there are groups that aren't through universities at all, such as we've had Nico de Klerk on this podcast, and those groups that are in the townships of South Africa through the Bia Nelson program. So that's context. But I understand, Wei-Jou, that you're being asked, or you're considering once again going beyond what's required of you and being involved in a distinct application this spring, which is to leading change within organizations. And can you talk with us a little bit how the process that you've applied to entrepreneurs could apply to those trying to transform organizations, whether to transform their carbon footprint or otherwise?
Thanks for bringing this up. And to be honest, I haven't took that course before. So I
You
also,
haven't been a
as a
student in it,
freshman,
right?
yeah, I also be a student in it and start learning during this course as well. But maybe I will have a better idea after like this learning to actually bring
Yeah.
something after like as an entrepreneur. So I think this
So,
fear is very similar.
as an entrepreneur, this is a very, very fair
That's
response. Tomas, I have this image in my mind of you drawing a tree that includes both the entrepreneurial experiences that we've been talking about and these experiences within organizations. Can you tell us about that tree and how it works, whether for a project like Greenies, where you branch off with some skills, project like Repurpose, where you may actually launch that project, and then what you bring to organizations? Can you describe the tree that you envision for us?
If I understood correctly the question you made to Wei-Jou, like in the coming course in this spring, which is leading change, and how all that we've been discussing could apply also to leading change. And I will help Wei-Jou in this and also link it to your question of the tree, Alejandro. I think it's okay. I don't want to say it's easy, but I will use the word easy because in the end, it's basically the same thing applies.
Right. Unlike
Uh,
oceanography, which is not easy. Go
Not
on.
oceanography. I don't want to get into that. I don't know about oceanography. That's why I'm happy with Joe. I will ask her any question about oceanography or
yeah, please.
ChatGPT, one of the two. I don't know which one. But
This is
for leading
like John
change,
Henry, woman versus machine, Wei-Jou versus ChatGPT. Go on.
who whomever replies to me first my question about the oceanography, but about leading change inside of organizations. In the end, to lead that change, you need to have that entrepreneurial spirit inside. So it has totally different paths, and sometimes you require different things to start your own venture than leading a change inside an existing venture.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the end, it's the same drive inside of yourself. There is something you want to change, and there is a problem that you want to solve, either inside of an existing organization
Hmm.
or creating some vehicle to solve another problem. So an organization does not exist. And in relationship to the tree that you are mentioning, Alejandro, probably because audience does not know about this tree, but there is a way, a graphic way of expressing how could we solve more efficiently problems in this world by using entrepreneurs, or by, let's say, by training entrepreneurs, and not only entrepreneurs but also intrapreneurs. So you could imagine this tree as in the roots, in the trunk, there is a channel of entrepreneurs. So some people use an army of entrepreneurs. I'm not so keen of the word army itself. I would call it a large group of people coming into would appear as a funnel, but in the end is are the roots of a tree, and then helping them equip them with tools, necessary tools, to then exit that channel or exit that tree and start a new branch of that tree that will, when they create a new solution, when they create a new venture, the entrepreneurs, and then that branch at the same time will grow into multiple other branches, and hopefully
Mm.
will have that greener effect and tree that we want at the end. But also, you could exit that same tree within creating that change inside of your organization, and you will be also impacting lots of other people's lives and nature and other problems that you want to solve or your organization is working on. So the ultimate goal of it, as you go imagine this trip up this trip up the tree, at the end what you will have in the crown, it's multiple branches from people who actually learned how to start or how to be an entrepreneur, or actually turn on the sparkle of being an entrepreneur inside of them while going through this course or this certificate that we try to promote. That
I
maybe
love as
you,
I listen the
yeah.
sense of this global brain trust across continents
Hmm.
going through a shared thought process and process of experimentation. The army that you're referring to, Sebastian Crow and I came up with this idea of an army of entrepreneurs
That
doing
was you,
climate
yeah.
in the global south. And he gave a speech, the COP conference, about that really got people thinking. And I love that, we're refining that idea. As you say, I don't really see it as an army, more like a larger group of people. And similarly, you
Yeah.
mentioned the funnel. I had drawn the two funnels with their spouts together. I'm remembering now. And then you looked at that and said, no, wait a minute. These are really branches of a tree. And I even forgot that. I was so into your tree. So I like this idea that we're kind of evolving something not just through those conversations, but also through trying all these things. It really makes me want to ask Tomas, can this be this process of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs building these skills? Can this be brought to just a few people in a few courses, or can this kind of non-formal learning to solve our problems be much broader, and can it be something conducted at scale? And when I say at scale, I'm very conscious that I don't mean traditional scale where it's just everybody does the same thing with the same tool in the same ways, but a different notion of scale where it's lots of people percolating and comparing notes on their solutions and experiments in the ways you've described. Can that happen?
Well, a little introduction. All my life, what I've been trying to replicate is success stories that sometimes I live.
Mm.
And what I always try to be is a catalyst. It's I had I had experience on myself this way of learning, and one of my aims in this life is to replicate that and to train and help other people at the same time do the same thing, because I prefer to reach to 100 other people like me who will teach another 1,000 people rather than just teaching me directly 100 students. And in that sense, I do believe that using the right tools and method, there is a way of involving not just hundreds but thousands of people around the world.
Mm. Mm.
In the following way, usually, what we need to be a professor, okay, you need to have a title education, formal education needs to be involved perhaps. However, uh, to become an entrepreneur, you don't need that. And to
Mm.
help other people to become entrepreneur, you do not need that. So if
Mm.
we teach people how to practically help and enhance and enable other people, it will be much easier to have to have bigger waves of in this effect that we are trying to achieve here. And at the same time, if those people in their environments they're involving more and more people just to give them
Mm.
feedback to know about the thing in a way they are also in this they are involved in this, and instead of thinking of the classic approach of a university or high school where there is a professor that teaches 30 students a year, and then okay, something comes out from that, good, but maybe it doesn't. In this other approach we try to touch hundreds and maybe thousands possible in the next years, And then maybe from those thousands, we'll be luckier to get the solutions that we need rather than out of 30 people in a class.
So instead of just seeding a few places with fertilizer and water, we seed a lot of different kinds and see what comes. I want to, as we close our discussion for today, really dwell on the point you've just made, where you said, as folks learn how to help, enhance, and enable, because it really struck me as the two of you described your interaction early in this conversation, that there was this process where Tomás, you were helping, enhancing, and enabled, and you played that role for Wei-Jou. And then Wei-Jou, you began to play that role for others, right? For Team Repurpose, and now looking ahead for the whole leading change process. Now, what I'd love to understand as we bring this to a close is, from each of your points of view, what would it take to enable many people? What's your experience been? Wait, Joe, you mentioned co-instructors, and we didn't really, with seeing folks join a process and learn to take that role, both yourself and some of the others who were working with the global group for the first time this year. What does it take to become enablers? And could that enable us? Could that make it possible for this to happen, this process you two have described so beautifully, for millions of problem solvers, or thousands in Tomás's formulation? I'm always a little American optimist. I already took your thousands and raised you millions. But seriously, and Tomás, if you're comfortable, say a little bit. I'd be curious to know about the co-instructors around the world having created this new Democratizing Innovation Institute and how that relates to that question. So first, can we make it possible for many people to do this?
Yes, well, I will try, but I will need your help, Alejandro, as well, because you are inside the Democratizing Innovation Institute as well, so you're part of that. And what we are trying to do that, it's to bring those learnings, those tools that we applied in the courses that we have been talking about, these ways of teaching, these ways of helping and hazing other people, not only youngsters, because there are other participants who are like me or older than me, than myself, and to help them realize that they have the potential to become entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. And that set of tools and courses are also easier for other people in our role to join, which means that that can reproduce even a bigger effect. So the way to get in, it's we make it easy for those who want to get in and help us, and then thanks to that, people like Nico de Klerk in South Africa can be joining and enabling a community of youth workers and underserved communities in South Africa, which in another way wouldn't have been possible to be in some institutionalized education about entrepreneurship. So that's why Democratizing Innovation Institute it's about democratizing innovation and entrepreneurship. And we try to do it in the best way we know, which is by making questions and enabling other people to do what they are set to do, what they would love to do.
Yeah, I want to add on something. I think it's really more like this change of the value of lots of people. It's just like a shift of mindset. I mean, like it's just like you start to. It's just like Thomas brings up. You start to realize your potential, and through this realization, you start to spot some problem in the world and try to develop a solution in it. So I'm trying to imagine a future that everyone is having this kind of core value and mindset. So I think it's more broader. It's just like the very brand new, like uh, like social, cultural, or even cross cultural, like the very similarity of making change and spot some problem and develop the solution and try to improve the world. So that's what I'm trying to bring up is just like the shift of the mindset.
Tomás Mora Selva and Wei-Jou Huang, thank you so much for joining us tonight, this morning, and all of everything in between here on What If Instead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.